By the way, I'm sure you are aware that the Petroleum Industry Act clearly indicated that subsidy regime will terminate latest by the 17th of February 2022. We got to 2022, government in its wisdom, government can choose to spend money on its citizen. We are completely agree with it. There are subsidies all over the world in very many commodities, agriculture, and so on and so forth. So government decided that in the fiscal 2022, a provision was made, irrespective of the fact that the law said you should do price petroleum at the market price. It said, look, we're going to provide money for subsidy. It is not the business of NNPC to worry about this. And we agree completely. We executed that will of government. That provision was made in 2022. And again, in 2023, up to half year, government still made another provision of subsidy to enable NNPC continuous supply at the subsidized rate. But the complication is that you can make provision in budget, but you have to finance it. And that financing part of it is absent. I can tell you, since 2022, when that provision was not a single naira was paid to the NNPC to provide those subsidies. And the implication of this is that you have to take the cash flow of the NNPC to continue to supply petroleum into the country, and it has becoming a daunting task, almost impossible for NNPC to continue to bear this cost. And therefore, when we saw the alignment of government with the realities of the law and the very fact that government does no longer have the money to fund this, that means it is eliminated by the facts of the law and also by the realities that government doesn't have the money anymore. And that's why I said, look, we are providing this product, you do not have the money, and since you don't have the money and this is the situation we are found, we will sell this product at its market price so that we will be able to continue to supply product into the market and also avoid any potential default. We're happy that this is not happening, it's not crystallizing. That is why NNPC saw the realities. We know the market price of these commodities, and as soon as that indication was given, we knew that government can no longer fund it, and therefore we decided to adjust your pricing. Nothing to do with anything else other than the fact that we're just observing the rules of the game, that's of the law of the Federation. Thank you very much.
We have enough product
today. To sell. I have 1.8 billion liters of petroleum motor spirit or premium motor spirit in our hands today. So that means that if you don't do anything, I will have sufficient fuel for the next 30 days in my hands. But of course, the way we supply is not this way. So we maintain this level of supply consistently. That means you will see arrival of products every day or every other day so that you continue to maintain that level of safety.
So sorry for cutting that interesting video short. I just want you to like the video right now. Just click on the like button, click on the notification bell, and click all videos so you can be notified when we drop new videos. And please subscribe to this and just hit the button and enjoy your video.
So by Monday, you're telling Nigerians tonight that these queues will go away.
I do not see it staying actually beyond Saturday.
But what kind of, word of authority can you give us?
The authority first, you have supply. But the key trouble with PMS system is supply. So I have supply. There are over 810 million liters of petroleum, premium motor spirit or petrol in depots and in tanks and in fuel stations across the country. So you don't have problem of having trouble transferring those from marine into land. So you already have them on loan. That means you have supply on ground in your hands. Now, the second thing is that people panic, run to fuel stations to buy. And of course, those people will not go back now because they now know that there's certainty of pricing. They don't have to go back. When they go back to fuel station, the next day they're going to find fuel at a price that is normalized now. So they're not rushing to go and buy cheap petroleum motor spirit. That goes, and then of course the trading companies, the marketing companies that now have certainty that the market has come into effect. So whatever they are holding back, they know that when you sell, you have sufficient funds from your inventory costs for you to go back to the market. So this real recirculation of product that is available, the market will come into play, and I don't see why this will last any longer. When you get subsidy, you will expect that it gets down to the person who should benefit from it. Remember that majority of Nigerians don't own cars, and this probably, the trickle effect of subsidy is that probably it eases transportation and that they're able to get back to their places of work, their homes, in the cheapest possible manner. Now, has that objective been achieved? I think this is very questionable because, for instance, if you look around the country today, in the last 2 to 3 years that we can all remember, there is no time in some states in the country today, and I'm sure Nigerians know this, in some states in the country, southeast, some of the border states, Borno, Yobe, Kano, Katsina, and all the way around the country, there is nowhere, in Kebbi State, and so on, all the way to people who are living on the other side of Ogun State and so on. There is nowhere you go to the fuel station and you buy petroleum motor spirit or petrol at the designated official price. The reality is that these prices are limited to certain limited number of people. And those people are the elites of the society. Unfortunately, I'm one of them.
Who are these people?
Me and you, Shaun.
How?
Yeah, everyone else. I can tell you why it is so. Because when you have people who own 3 to 4 cars, SUVs, escorts, and all forms that we all know, and that means that majority of these cars that we are fueling are actually people not using those cars for the purpose of transporting the mass of the people. They are also not using it to transport people to their workplaces. Mostly are business leaders, people who have resources, who have ability. The marginal group of people, particularly in the working class, they exist. Those who have to drive their cars to work and so on and so forth. It's a very, very marginal set of people who benefit from this. And this is very reflective in the consumption.
What is the percentage of these people in the population?
Yeah, because they're very minor. They're insignificant. Maybe 10-15% of the population taking value of 100%. That's really what's happening. So that's what you're dealing with. So, but now the effect, and that's very critical. The effect comes to the ordinary man because some of the transport means that you are seeing, for the ordinary people, a very small number of them are actually driven by petrol. Kekena pips, and some of the small cars that you are seeing around. Yes, that's what affects the ordinary man. Other than that, majority of the fuel that comes on, unfortunately, those category of the vehicles are the ones that consume the least quantity of fuel.
There's also the controversy over our porous borders. And most of these subsidized products do not even stay in Nigerian soil. They go into neighboring country.
And the only thing that can solve is just like cocaine. Why do cocaine price is cheaper in one place, more expensive in another place?
So with this new regime, yes, will it stop or tame this? Because the price now will be almost at par with what is being sold. The reason why our fuel is very popular outside of the country is because it's probably cheaper.
We are doing 2 things. One of them is that we are saving countries around us the risks of foreign exchange. That means they do not have to go to the banks to get letters of credit to import product into their countries. That's one risk that you have taken. And then the second risk is that because you are doing it for them and it's cheaper, so why would I go to the international market and buy and bring product into a country? And that means it's a double jeopardy for us. And that means it's reasonable to assume that once you remove this arbitrage, once it is not substantial, countries will see that they are better off going to the market to buy themselves because it is now at par with the market. And probably there are distance issues, a lot of arbitrages along the pathway, and obviously the prices will just be mirror what they have in their country, and there will be no need for the smoggling.
So the smoggling will reduce. That's the bottom line.
It may not terminate it, but it will substantially come down, I believe. See, let me give you an example. When you take a truck of PMS, 60,000 liters, from Lagos into Maiduguri, legitimately the margin for the trader is about 300,000 naira. Imagine, you need that 300,000 naira to service your fuel station, pay your workers, and of course, if you're able to sell it in 1 week, then you have to come back and assuming you're able to do 3 or 4. That means you're only making 1 million from 4 trucks. That is going to cost you about 8 million naira to buy it in the first instance. But this same product, when you take it across the border, you will make 12 to 17 million naira. Imagine what you will do to stop this.
You did not see most individuals or companies, private sector, investing in any refinery in the past is as a result of the fuel subsidy. A private company cannot establish a refinery and then produce the byproduct, and then you begin to fly back and forth Abuja to get the subsidy that you desire, haven't dispensed. So it couldn't happen for a very long time. All the IOCs couldn't invest in any form of refining in country because of this subsidy discussion. And over time, it has become a serious issue that needed to be dealt with. And you cannot deal with subsidy by keep talking. Somebody has to take a decision. But my position is that I know I can understand where labor is coming from to a large extent, because, I mean, if you have to carry out the subsidy removal, what have you got on the table? I know the government has been speaking to them.
So I believe you paid close attention to what was just being said. It's a robust interview. You need to watch the full video both the one on Arise News and the one on Channels TV, television. It's just mind blowing, and it's a very deep and insightful interview. Now, fuel subsidy truly must go, and the reasons are enormous. First, our borders are too porous, just as you heard. About 15 million liters of PMS is what is suspected, to be the actual volume of fuel that leaves our borders on a daily basis. 15 million liters of fuel leaves our borders on a daily basis to neighboring countries. Thereby, we are providing FX. We are providing cheap fuel. In fact, in some Western African countries, there's something called Nigeria fuel. Nigeria fuel, because they know that a lot of fuel in Nigeria is being pumped into the country. In fact, the NCDMB boss, in the person of Simbi Wabote, in an exclusive interview with Arise TV, made known that because of the smuggling of cheap fuel from Nigeria into Cameroon, it led to the shutdown of the only functioning petroleum crude oil refinery in Cameroon. So a lot of fuel will leave Nigeria into Cameroon, and their refineries will produce refined crude oil products, and we don't have markets to sell to, because people will begin to vie and opt for the cheaper fuel that comes from Nigeria, and it led to the shutdown of the only functioning refinery in Cameroon. That's disastrous. So we had humongous burden we're bearing, and we're not bearing the burden of subsidy for Nigerians alone, but for a lot of our West African neighbors who were receiving cheap fuel that left our porous borders. Now we have over 4,500 kilometers of borderland in this country, and with the current infrastructure and technical know-how and manpower and even personnel in the armed forces, it is impossible to successfully man over 4,500 kilometers of land border in Nigeria. It is absolutely impossible with the current realities in the country right now. So the best thing to do to ensure that smuggling becomes a thing of the past and becomes very unattractive is to remove fuel subsidy. We also saw that in the year 2022, $10 billion is what was spent on subsidizing PMS. Because in February of 2022, we had deregulated the downstream sector for diesel and for kerosene. What that means is that we're no longer subsidizing diesel and kerosene, and the price went up to 1,000. As we speak, diesel is being sold below 500 naira per liter, and kerosene too has also come down, because now the prices are then determined by market forces and by the demand in city. So we no longer see diesel being funneled out of this country because it's no longer cheap and it's not sustainable to do that, seeing that fuel subsidy was removed from diesel and kerosene. So we've seen PMS take the lead. So in the fiscal year of 2022, just petrol subsidy alone consumed 10 billion US dollars. That's blood money. That's too much money. That is more than the amount of money Nigeria borrowed in the year 2022. That's a lot of money, people. And fuel subsidy was steadily taking out this chunk of money. Now, what are the reason? It was funding the luxurious life of the elite, just as the vice president said. The elite would power their houses and run their fleet of cars, and only 40% of Nigeria, 40% of poor Nigerians consume about 3% of petrol. So the remaining 60% of Nigerians, who are in middle class and in the upper class, consume a whooping 97% of petrol. So in all sincerity, so what we're doing in NS was to subsidize the very luxurious and lavish life of the elite in this country. In fact, Abuja and Lagos alone would account for a lot of the petrol that is being consumed in these nations, and Abuja would constitute the center for the elites. So it was absolutely unsustainable. Now, because of fuel subsidy, our oil and gas sector, in fact, our refining sector of the oil and gas sector was permanently unattractive, The IOCs, which is the international oil companies, who would have brought in their own private capital to ensure refining capacity in the nation, will not do so because nobody wants to go back and forth trying to get the money that was subsidized from the federal government. That is very unattractive and it's not sustainable. So subsidy it took a lot of money from this nation. You know, some reports even say that as much as 70 billion US dollars is what we spent on subsidy between 2005 and 2023. We spent over 70. That would have set up about 3 of Dangote refinery comfortably in Nigeria. 70 billion US dollars in subsidy from 2005 to 2023. That's a lot of money. If we had that money right now in the country, it would do a lot. It would change things in a very short time. So so we really did have to go in order to make our oil sector more attractive to foreign investors to come and see how to be major players in our oil and gas industry. So I believe that from the interview, the spokesperson, the person of Mr. Mele Kyari had already said a lot of things which I'm just trying to build on, in this part of the video. So there's a lot of reasons why this subsidy had to go. And in our next video, we're going to talk about, the benefits of fuel subsidy removal in the short term and in the long term going forward. And there are a lot of benefits that the world of fuel subsidy is going to attract to the Nigerian economy, even in the short term. And we're going to do very well to cover that section of the video and bring it to you live from wherever you are. So this we're going to end it for this section of the video. It was a very interesting one, and this has been making the rounds in the news in recent times. And all I tell you is to just keep you guys up to speed with the recent development concerning oil and fuel subsidy and even the future. So do want to like this this content, do want to comment in the comment section, and to subscribe if you've not already subscribed to this channel. And to be see again, Godspeed.